I also do illustrations for a blog/podcast that my wife Kelly and I do about James Joyce's Ulysses. It's called bloomsandbarnacles.com. It's a very famous book. Anyway, I do the illustrations for it. It's kind of challenging read. To give you an idea, here's a passage I'll read. This is basically Leopold Bloom, one of the two main characters in the book, and he's walking through Dublin, crossing O'Connell Bridge, and he's bought a bun for the seagulls because he's soft on the animals' sup. Aware of their greed and cunning, he shook the powdery crumb from his hands. They never expected that. Manna, live on fish. Fishy flesh they have, all seabirds, gulls, sea goose. Swans from Liffey swim down here sometimes to preen themselves. No accounting for tastes. Wonder what kind is swan meat. Robinson Crusoe had to live on them. They wheeled, flapping weakly. I'm not going to throw any more. Penny quite enough. A lot of thanks I get, not even a call. They spread foot and mouth disease too. If you cram a turkey, say, on chestnut meal, it tastes like that. Eat pig like pig. But then, why is that saltwater fish are not salty? How is that? And here's the part that I want to illustrate for the latest episode. His eyes sought answer from the river, and saw a rowboat rock an anchor on the treacly swells lazily its plastered board. Kino's 11 shillings trousers. And basically what we're reading here is this is a boat floating in the Liffey, and some very clever ad man has found a way around having to pay money for it. He's put a sort of a billboard on this floating boat. So thank God people don't do that anymore. So what I want to do is just illustrate this. It's very simple. So I'm going here, shaggy brush. And I like to very quickly sketch out something. So let's go to a lower opacity, looser brush, zoom in a bit. And this is just to show you my work process. So initially, I have a folder so I can group all the layers. And so all we want is something fairly simple that shows some of the motifs in the book. So it's sort of I'm imagining it as a sort of little rowing boat on the slimy, filthy Liffey. You know, the kind of thing that would have a couple of planks on it. And our advertiser has rigged up some kind of ad here. And I wanted to do something with it where we work the seagulls in as well. So also something of visual interest. So we see the filthy, slimy water, and then a seagull. And Dublin seagulls run that city. If you want a good laugh, go on YouTube and do a search for Seagull Crisps Dublin, and you'll see a seagull on Grafton Street walking into a little shop and stealing a bag of crisps and walking out with the bag of crisps and eating it. And there's a man filming it laughing and said, I'll pay for it, because he just wants the bird to have his crisps. So anyway, so I'm thinking of something like that. So the trick that I do is I have a shortcut for flipping horizontally. You may have seen other people do this. Back in the day before computers, we would have a light table, and you would take your drawing, physically turn it over, put the backlight on, and that would give you the same effect. So I've actually known of one very experienced animator who didn't know of this trick, and I'm amazed that he actually worked on The Thief and the Cobbler, and he was that good. And he didn't know. He saw someone do it, and he said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Oh, yeah." They explained it, and he was like, "That's amazing." So it's one of those things that he just got by him, you know. So it doesn't matter how good you are. We all have our blind spots, and just trying to figure. Even that later in life, I've been learning things that little tricks and things that go, "Oh, I wish I'd known that 20, 30 years ago. That would have come in handy." So anyway, I think that's fine. Honestly, I'm really happy with that. I could have struggled with that now, and I haven't. So the first thing to do is save this. I'll just save it to the desktop as a PSD, of course. Call it add, just for now. And so the next thing to do is keep that on its own layer. Don't muck with that anymore. And I have a bunch of shortcuts here, but they enable me to just layer it to blue and to do a blend mode so that I can change the color, and that makes it feel like it's it's an underlayer now. And then because it's blue and blue, there's almost no chance of me accidentally drawing on top of it. That would really suck, wouldn't it? Imagine if you think you're working on this layer and you're really working on the lower layer, and you're happily putting down your clean version, thinking all this stuff is on a clean layer, and then you go, oh hell, it's all on that layer. So that's why I switch everything to blue. It kind of idiot proofs it, and it's very easy to get distracted and then accidentally work. I have done this many times. So anyway, so then the question is how do we? The other thing too I can also add is the ad. We'll go back to Shaggy. So the ad man is, let's get the text right. Kino's 11 shillings trousers. So I would think it would be somewhere like this. And pre-decimal money with shillings and farthings and groats and all that was a real nightmare. Ads in this period were very text heavy. They would have from Mr. Kino, the purveyor of Dublin's finest sartorial elegance. You will see the most wonderful and yet economical effluvium of the fashion industry. It will be something like that, right? So that's the kind of thing that we might want. So maybe I'll make the trousers a bit bigger. The other thing I was thinking of doing for a bit of humor was, instead of having the seagull on that side, let's draw this on the upper layer. Ulysses is a very crude book in many respects. A lot of people, oh, I've been reading Ulysses, don't you know? But it's filthy. Like, James Joyce was a dirty, dirty man. Like, and I mean that in a good way. Like, he wasn't a prude or anything. So he was. The book is full of like vulgarities and all the everyday stuff that you might expect. So let's have the seagull, doing a plop down the back. That's not going to make Joyce angry. His ghost isn't going to come out and hunt me down. So let's get rid of that one. Actually, let's, just in case, excuse me. Let's see. I don't want to like obscure the text either, but I do want him to be kind of pooping on the thing. So let's come out of there. Maybe switch off this and this, and the opacity back up and flip horizontally. That look okay? It's not. I have this weird thing with my brain where it kind of, this is something that's only happened to me later in life, where when I draw things now, they're kind of skewed, and the flip horizontal is the only way that I can kind of detect it. I think this is okay. I think this seagull is a bit big, to be honest, so let's take him down a bit. And I don't like the legs are a bit, so yeah, let's do that. So kind of clawing there. Give him a bit more room for the poop to come out. The other thing too that I might do, if we really want to like accentuate this, let's just do a new layer. Get rid of that. Let's sort of tilt him away, and I'm drawing a bit finer now. So just make the beak a lot bigger, and let's do this, right? So then there's. Okay, that's horrific. So then there's no mistaking what's going on here. I like that. So, okay, and I'm going to get rid of that thing now. So I'm going to call this one our reference folder, and I'm going to keep that set. See how annoying. I work in an old version of Adobe Photoshop. I'm using CS6. I absolutely hate the cloud with a passion. There's an English podcaster called Ed Zitron. If you've ever listened to him, you'll know exactly how I feel. I think it's a scam. They want you to be renting everything. So my advice for anybody who does, like I do, still and love the original Photoshop experience, if you can go online and acquire, buy, beg, borrow, whatever, CS6, it does everything I need to do. And it'll do most of the things you will need to do, especially if your focus is drawing. So all the AI stuff they have in it now, it's fun if it works. A lot of the time it doesn't. A lot of the time it breaks and crashes. And I've seen so many people online complaining about how slow it is now. In Premiere too, I bought the CS because I'm a good little boy. One of the best things I did, I bought the CS 5.5 suite. I still use it. I do my video editing with Premiere 5.5, and I know there's some things I would love to have from the newer version, but I own it. I'm not paying rent to a company that randomly updates it and breaks it. And I've had that happen when I did have the cloud. It would just break. I installed, I think the end of my kind of respect for Adobe came with the 2022 update of Photoshop on my computers, and it just did not like the graphics card, and it just crashed every time I opened it. And I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of us, and we had a thread on the Adobe forums going for a long time, and they just did not care. And people were saying, this is wrecking my business. Why am I paying you money for a program that crashes every time I try to open a PSD file or a GIF, and it would sometimes open some files and then crash. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And I've had so many similar experiences. The term in crapification, and it's actually more of a less polite word than crapification, has been coined by Corey Doctorow. And I'm just sick of it. So I'm using Photoshop here. I do have other movies in my library on the YouTube channel about KRITA. I love KRITA. I'm just using Photoshop right now because I think, I've done most of the illustrations for this website in in Photoshop. So it's just easier for this. But when I do animation now, I like hand drawn stuff. I love to use KRITA for it. And I will do some more drawing stuff, I promise. One reason why I haven't been updating the channel as much is that I've been doing a very rare freelance job, which I don't get much of, so I kind of had to drop everything to work on that. I think, so it's kind of put my Patreon and my YouTube channel into, not hiatus exactly, but certainly a pace that I probably should try to accelerate a bit. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do with the lines here is just get some nice shapes, but also think of the volume. I'm going to kind of wreck this for it. Actually, I'm going to do a clean layer and show some of the kind of thinking that's going on beneath it. So I'll do this in orange. So this is sort of constructed, right? Like I'm putting lines down, but my brain is like invisibly. I have cats, by the way, so I'm not going to edit them out. I'm just going to plop that. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. That's the construction of it. And that would be the sort of the form or the shape. And of course, this is obviously like a triangle. But again, you imagine it like a volume. So what we were told when we worked for the Don Bluth studio was you're not drawing lines, you're drawing volumes. So you always have to be conscious of the volumes and not just the lines. And when I was a kid and I was drawing, you'd see the cartoons, and you start drawing and you're just drawing lines, and that's fine. That's a fun way to draw, and you can do that if you like. But if you're trying to draw in the classical Warner Brothers, Disney, Don Bluth style, you've got to be cognizant of what are the underlying forms that this character is built out of. And it's like Cezanne and fine art too. Everything is cylinders and triangles or pyramids and cubes. That's very similar attitude, to be conscious of the forms of it. And then the challenge is, and this is where the kind of practice comes in, is becoming comfortable with where you place the lines over these forms, because there's so many different ways that you can do that. So for example, say the seagull, right? Like I could make it very soft and come out with a 1940s look. And I'm trying to consciously make it a little softer here. Or, let's get rid of that. Let's say you're going for the 60s look. They began to straighten things out, like the Secret of Nim. They were going much bolder. And I think, honestly, some of that came from speed. I think they were just so damn good that they were making the line. That's my theory anyway, that they just began working faster. And the faster you make the lines, you're going to get more of these straights. Now, they weren't just arbitrarily throwing down straights, mind you. They would have reasons for doing them. So maybe the beak is made of a hard material. The spine might be straighter because it's got a freaking bone going through it. Maybe you'll put a straight line there because and then a curve, because that's a nice kind of visual contrast. So that's the kind of reasons why I'm doing some of these shapes, just to give you that little spiel. Anyway, let me go back now and figure out how I unwreck this. Let's see, put the ref back up, and so this will be, I'll get rid of that orange layer. So we have the boat. So let's label clean as we go, like in the kitchen. Boat, ref, and I'm going to make that ref the whole layer, the whole folder blue. And again, that'll help me from doing something stupid. Make a new layer here. Seamus Culhane wrote about not getting tied up in fiddly stuff, like putting scene numbers and reinforcements and timing charts before you figure things out. It's kind of a balancing act with me. But if you find you're getting creative block, just flow. You can let this slide a little bit, but I would say after you've done the fun part, you need to go back in and then, label your folders right. Okay, so let's go back in here. I like working with an opacity because then I can sort of build up. See how nice that is? That's a really and kind of more interesting shape than just one big blobby line. And if you think it's a little too grey, we can go to say 40% or however your brush. It'll depend on your brushes as well. So I did in the last one a kind of a nice thing, just very quickly with a straight and a curve. So I'm going to go for I really like that 1960s, 70s graphic style. And honestly, sometimes if a time machine opened up and I could go back, I'd be very tempted. No Twitter. Okay. I know there's other horrible things in the 70s though. Don't get me started. So there we go. There's our bird and legs. Claw. And I might just give them like a little, rather than just make them like a big black line. Let's go in and actually on the boat layer, I probably need to. No, I don't, because I'm going to put this bird in a different layer. I'll show you that in a second. So, okay, so there's our bird. And let's put the Kino's trousers. I'm going to put the Kino's text on its own layer. And that way, if it goes wrong, it's easier to fix. And this is simple enough. Kino's 11 shillings. Sounds cheap, but I think 11 shillings was a lot of money in those days. I remember my grandfather, who was a butcher. It's a skilled enough job. I think his take-home pay in a week was like £10. This was in the 1940s, 50s maybe. And he had 10 kids, so they were able to stretch it anyway. So let's make these look like, maybe, I don't know, would they have had like a seam? I'm not sure. Anyway, that's clearly trousers, right? And then we'll just do text, and I'll break it up a bit so it looks a little more like letters. Blah, 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 blah. Mr. Kino has the highest standards in all of the British Isles and is renowned for the quality of his clothing and hosiery, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe his information. Please note that his clothes are not returnable when worn. Blah, blah. And then maybe like a larger text here. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and now would like to work on the filth of the Liffey. So let me get that off the boat layer. I'm going to do it just for efficiency and safety. And I'm also going to write here the advert. And here the gull. And the Liffey. So I'll put the Liffey, I don't know if it should go on top or below the boat. Let's just do it here. And I might just go with a shaggy line on this. Let's see if it'll live politely, just so that it has like a different feel, a material feel. And at this time, the Liffey's bad enough today. There's been enough problems with sewage leaks. We've had a few of them in Ireland too, as well as the UK. There was a nasty one on Sandymount Strand. But people would swim in it. What the hell? How do you not get hepatitis? Okay, so I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm just going to keep going and add a few more spirals and things. Whoops. Here. Oh, we should work in black, not white. Yeah, there's just some curly loops. Things that are like lobby and maybe potentially nasty objects. And I think there's like another scene when there's like a dirty crumpled piece of paper, like an ad for a religious fundamentalist has been chucked in the river. So we'll add that there as well. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So in the next one, I will get coloring this because that's a separate process. Cheers. I don't have a sponsor, so if you want to support my work and help it to continue, you can subscribe to my Patreon. I'm making new animation projects week by week and providing animation assets that can be downloaded and used. I also have a very large collection of tutorials in the LinkedIn Learning Library covering animation and design, and I'm putting all the links to these in the notes below.